The future of the euro in doubt, there's a growing line of critics warning countries who are embracing the single currency that they're boarding a sinking ship. RT spoke to a British politician at the heart of Brussels about why Europe needs to open its eyes. That interview is next on RT.
Today I'm talking to David Campbell Bannerman, the deputy leader of the Eurosceptic political party UKIP. He's at the forefront of the campaign against what he calls the European superstate. Mr. Campbell Bannerman, thanks very much for talking to RT.
Pleasure.
Now, you compare the European Union to the former Yugoslavia.
Yes.
Where do you think the similarities lie?
I think what it's about is actually trying to force very different countries together and very different economies together under one state, a state, effectively the United States of Europe, with quite an element of the Soviet Union to it. I'm a member of the European Parliament, but I think the European Parliament is not a true parliament. It's a bit like a Supreme Soviet. It's not as bad as the former Soviet Union, but there are elements of this. So there are parallels with Yugoslavia, I'm afraid, but it is extremely dangerous, as we've seen with the euro, to force such divergent nations together. I think the tensions you create, economic and political, are profoundly dangerous.
But surely you're not predicting that the EU will end in a bloody conflict?
I certainly hope not, but you know, I've been involved in the peace process in Northern Ireland. I worked in government then, and I've seen what happens when democracy fails, and I believe democracy is failing in the European Union because national sensitivities are being overridden. We saw it in Ireland, how they said no to the Lisbon Treaty, and then they were invited to get the right answer, and they had to have another referendum, and they said yes. And look what a mess that Ireland is now in. But effectively, it's a contempt for democracy that worries me most. You know, we are a democratic party in UKIP, and our real reason for being there and our real concern is the lack of democracy at the heart of the European Union.
2010 saw Europe as an economic bloc mired in difficulty. Let's look forward to the future. What are you seeing this year in 2011?
I think, personally, I think the euro will collapse, and soon. I think it could be January, February, it could collapse. I mean, really, you cannot, I saw the exchange rate mechanism, the forerunner to the euro, you cannot buck the markets, as Mrs. Thatcher said at that time. And effectively, what the EU is trying to do with this massive bailout package, 750 billion euros, is to try and buck the markets. But you can't do that. National governments never have enough money to actually outmaneuver and outbid bond markets or private markets. They have more money available. And it's not going to work. I mean, Spain, I believe, will bring down the euro sometime early this new year. And why is that? Because Spain alone will need a bailout package equivalent to half the entire bailout package, which already has a hole in it for Ireland, 100 billion approximately, and Portugal is in trouble, and Greece is still in trouble. So I don't think it's going to work. And of course there's a German constitutional court challenge as well, which may well disallow the Germans from actually backing any rescue package, under their own legal rules. So I think the euro is in serious trouble. I think I welcome the end of the euro politically, but I do acknowledge that the economic cost of the euro collapsing will hurt us all.
Many economists now don't agree with you, though. They're saying that the euro won't collapse imminently and that Germany has such a vested political interest in supporting it that it will keep on doing that. Is that the view from inside the European Parliament?
Well, I mean, Germany has a lot of political interest, and euro is a political project. It was, in fact, I became UKIP when I was sitting next to George Osborne in the former German, Goering's former air ministry in Berlin, which is now the finance ministry. And it worried me then, that's many years ago, just before the euro was launched, because they were denying it was a political project then. It's always been a political project. And that is dangerous because you cannot throw billions or hundreds of billions even after a political project. If the markets aren't interested, if they see through it, they will bring it down, and that's what's going to happen. As for economists, there are different views, different interpretations of what can happen, but what I'm saying is the euro in its current form, I believe, will collapse. I think you may get another euro re-arising with the stronger nations such as Germany, possibly France, Belgium maybe, working together a different euro for the future. But I think the euro in its current form will collapse. You cannot push water uphill. You can't make pigs fly. You know, this euro really is fundamentally unsound. It goes back to an earlier point I made that you're trying to force very divergent economies together. Germany is very powerful, doing very well with its exports. Greece is very weak. Spain is very weak. Spain has 1.5 million homes unsold. It's in serious trouble, as is Ireland. You cannot force all these countries and economies together and force them into this euro. It doesn't work.
And let's talk about Estonia, which of course is the newest member of the euro, joined just at the beginning of the year. There are posters up in Estonia comparing the euro to the Titanic and comparing Estonia to the Titanic. What's going to happen to countries like that?
Well, I fear for Estonia. I mean, you know, good for Estonia. It's actually successful economically. It's not going to be a basket case. No, but I do worry for them. I think it could be the shortest lived, membership of the euro of all. But, you know, I do fear the economic cost of the euro collapsing, countries having to reinvent currencies, which they will have to do. That is going to be very serious. And I fear for Estonia. You know, Estonia's had a tough history with Soviet control and Nazi control, etc. It's got its freedom back. It's doing well economically. For heaven's sake, don't throw it away by joining the euro and getting too involved in that. Titanic is a good metaphor, I think, because, you know, Estonia could find it's just got the last ticket for the Titanic. The ship is whole below the waterline, the euro. It is fundamentally unsound. You cannot support it through just throwing money at it. It will not float.
You and your colleagues at UKIP often talk about the collapse of the euro with a measure of glee, but Europe is the UK's biggest trading partner. Wouldn't it be a huge blow for British prosperity if the eurozone were to fall apart?
Well, I don't underestimate the economic cost. I think it is refreshing politically because it's a bad concept, it's a political project, and it's really about driving the European Union together, creating one superstate. That's what it's really about. There will be a big economic cost for all of us. Our banks will be hit in the UK, and I don't welcome that. However, I think by liberating these countries from the straitjacket, Ireland's been going down. Ireland's had serious boom problems because it's got the wrong interest rate because it's in the euro. The interest rate, you have one interest rate within this currency zone, which doesn't suit Ireland because it was doing very well previously. Therefore, it got high inflation, it got high house prices, and same in Spain with their massive 1.5 million homes unsold. It just doesn't work as a concept. You have to have economies that are broadly the same in order to have a currency that covers them all. And, that is not the case with the euro. So, yes, there will be some economic damage, but I think politically it will liberate these countries to have their own currencies, and they will be able to float, they'll be able to get their economies moving again. At the moment, they're stuck in a freeze within this straitjacket we call the euro.
Your objection to the euro as a currency is well documented, but UKIP as a party also objects to the European Union and the UK's membership of it. But surely it's better for a small country like the UK to remain involved with its near neighbours in this way.
Well, Britain, if you look at our history, we were involved with countries all around the world, for hundreds of years, trading happily, and we have strong cultural links. We're not anti-European, stress that 100%, neither is Switzerland, and they're not in the European Union, or Norway, and they're not in the European Union. What we're saying really is we want a different relationship with the European Union. We do not want to be immersed within this political superstate, the United States of Europe, with its flag and its anthem and its parliament and its presidents and all of that. We don't want that. We want a perfectly amicable, friendly trading arrangement with the EU, just like Switzerland has. but we don't want the politics, that is really submerging our country and our way of doing things, our judicial system and our culture within this superstate. We don't want that, and we don't need that. As you say, we are the largest trading partner Britain is with the continental EU. We are in a prime position to actually have a perfectly respectable and very amiable free trade agreement.
Many are saying that we've only seen the beginning of protests against austerity measures on the streets of Europe. Are you one of them, or do you think it's going to fizzle out in 2011?
I think it will get worse, and I do fear, you have some extreme problems in Greece, in Spain, etc., in Portugal, very high unemployment. When, like in Spain, you're almost approaching, 1 in every 2 young people is unemployed. That is not sustainable within a democratic society. I think that it will lead to serious problems. But I think the route to solving this is get out the euro, have a free-floating currency again, and actually to be able to attract people back to Spain in terms of holiday makers, for example, because it's cheaper to go there. That's a major issue. And just to get the economy moving again. I mean, when we left the exchange rate mechanism, which is a forerunner of the euro in Britain, our economy started getting better, and it got stronger and stronger ever since we left that rigid system that was the precursor to the euro. And that's what will happen in Ireland or Spain. It's the only route to these countries actually finding salvation is to get out the euro.
And in the short term, Spain will fall?
I think what will happen is Spain will have to leave the euro, or the euro will collapse, because it's too big to support. I mean, it will need about 7 times as much, roughly, as what Ireland did to help it out the problems. And that's not sustainable. And even the Germans, are not prepared to work till 80 or whatever in terms of their economy to support Spain. They can't afford it. Even the Germans can't afford to bail out large economies like Spain, and it's in serious problems, has serious problems. And we have to be honest about that. And the only way for the economy to start moving again is for it to get back its own freely floating currency and not to be oppressed within the euro.
David Campbell Bannerman, thank you very much.
Thank you.